Okay, so I'm coming in on Fridays to share with you something that is going to help support and guide you back to the wisdom within. This is the whole premise of what it is that I do and what I offer, and share with you things that I wish I had been told that would have supported me on my journey. So what I want to try and do is break things down so that they're more simplified because they can be, I find, quite overwhelming, and then we don't end up doing anything with the information because it's so overwhelming. So I wanted to come in today to talk about hustle culture, hustle mode, and why that is detrimental to your menstrual cycle and your overall health. So I'm going to talk about a kind of top line of two hormones specifically, and how they help with the functions in the body and any symptoms of kind of imbalance within the body, and then what we can do to support ourselves going forward. So I'm going to talk about progesterone and cortisol. Now, I'm not a doctor. This is just me doing my own research. So obviously this is not medical advice. This is just my take on what I have discovered, and I'm just sharing that information with you. So what you do with it is up to you. And so I'm just going to show you. I've seen this done with other YouTubers, and I absolutely love it. It helps keep you generally quite focused. So we're looking at progesterone. You might not be able to read my writing, but this is going to help me immensely, I think. So progesterone is the one of the sex hormones. It's the one that's produced after we ovulate. And the main functions for this hormone is to help thicken the uterine lining. So when we're for the egg to potentially the embryo to implant into if we become pregnant, to regulate menstrual bleeding so that we have that kind of regular bleeding, to help improve mood, to support the thyroid function, to help support it supports getting pregnancy. So once you do become pregnant, those first 12 weeks is really important to have a good progesterone production to support it until the placenta takes over, and supports lactation, so the milk production. So when you've had your baby, this is going to help with milk production. And there are some symptoms of low progesterone. So you may experience some of these, all of these, irregular cycles. So maybe, they're not regular 28 days or 30 days or whatever it is that's regular for you. They're all over the place. Heavier periods. So maybe you experience really heavy blood flows. PMS symptoms. Now, PMS symptoms are not normal. They are common because most of us have got progesterone, low progesterone, but it's not something that you should experience with a regular functioning menstrual cycle. These are if you do have PMS symptoms, you get cranky, you get bloating, you have these kind of real shifts in your emotions. There's a lot to do with actually there's something going on in your body. So checking into that. Breast tenderness or increased risks such as fibroids or endometriosis. So endometriosis is where the lining of the womb, your uterine lining, actually grows outside of the uterus. Now, it's not normal. And so that is progesterone. And the other hormone we're going to talk about is, I'm just going to move this across so that it helps my ADHD brain. see if I can just... So the next one is cortisol. And so this is actually an essential hormone for almost all organs and tissues within the body, and a lot of us know it as the stress hormone. But the main functions are that it regulates the stress response, it helps regulate our metabolism, it suppresses inflammation in the body, it regulates our blood pressure, it regulates our blood sugar, and it helps control our sleep-wake cycle. So maybe you can already see that your cortisol is maybe high. And so some symptoms of high cortisol: weight gain, hypertension, so high blood pressure, diabetes, excess hair growth for women, and mental health issues. This is kind of like a long-term, if you've got long-term suffering of high cortisol, and inflammation, which is another long-term thing. If you experience chronic stress. So these are the two hormones that we're talking about. And cortisol affects our progesterone. So let me just cover this one up. I feel like this is a little biology class, although I don't really remember if I was ever taught this in a biology class. Do you? Were you taught this? So cortisol affects progesterone. So progesterone is needed to form cortisol, and progesterone decreases when cortisol rises. And the body prioritizes survival over reproduction, which basically impacts ovulation and progesterone production. Progesterone is actually produced when we ovulate. So if we're not ovulating, we're not producing progesterone. And so it's basically this cycle of, if you're in a state of stress, your progesterone is being converted into cortisol, and then you're not ovulating, which means you're not producing progesterone, and what progesterone you do have is converted into cortisol. So it's this cycle of kind of stress within the body. And so when we're experiencing chronic stress, so chronic stress is basically long-term or ongoing. So if you experience stress in your job, maybe taking care of children, maybe both, then you're likely experiencing high levels of cortisol within the body. So you may recognize some or a lot of those symptoms within the progesterone, low progesterone and high cortisol. And so we basically, what can we do about it? This is what you'd like to know. And so there are things that we can do. And what we can start doing is start tracking your cycle. So knowing what your cycle looks like, your menstrual cycle. If you don't currently have a menstrual cycle because of stress, so that's stopped your menstrual cycle, then you can use the moon. So the new moon is the start of your new cycle, and the full moon is like ovulation. So you can use the moon to help track where you are in your cycle, and start noticing every day how you feel, what's happening in your body. Do you have energy? Do you not? There's so many cycle apps that you can use, but I actually like to just kind of write it down so that I can see, tracking your mood, energy levels, what is it that you want to eat? How do you feel? What are your emotions like? So tracking your cycle, where you are, and how long your period is, all those kinds of things, and working with your infradian rhythm. So we have the circadian rhythm, which is the 24-hour cycle, that is generally what men work to. You know, their cortisol rises in the morning, they have this kind of peak period in the afternoon, and then they get tired late afternoon, and then, you know, they can shut off like that, pretty much, most men. That is their cycle. Women, we work with the infradian rhythm, so it's a longer period. This is the 28-day cycle. This is your menstrual cycle. Maybe that's 28 days, maybe it's shorter, maybe it's longer, whatever is your cycle. And you've got that kind of, so you've got the cycle here, you've got your period here where we're bleeding, where generally we're very low energy. This is where we're meant to be resting and nourishing. And then we come into what's kind of called springtime. So this is pre-ovulation. And this is where we're building the energy. Those hormones are starting to rise. And then we come into ovulation, and it's kind of like you've got all this, you've got a lot of energy, you've got a lot of focus, you've got a lot of confidence. It's like go all out during that time. So this is where everything is building, and then you've got peak ovulation, and then things start to drop off. So the hormones start to change, and we're starting to move into the pre-period. This is like autumn time, where we're wanting to start to nourish, we're wanting to start to let go of or close down things, so that we can come into our period and we can rest, for maybe the first couple of days of our bleed, and then that helps build the energy that we need for that kind of this part of the cycle. So if you're able to do that, start to really tune in and work with the energy of your cycle, doing kind of more high impact workouts around ovulation and the first part before you bleed is great, I find. And then that kind of first half is resting, restorative yoga. We're starting to build that energy, so lighter workouts, lighter food in this part of the cycle, and more nourishing, nutrient dense foods. So really tuning into your cycle and how you're feeling, and working around that, so that you're not giving yourself loads of things to do pre-period and when you're on your period. Try and clear your diary as much as you possibly can, and plan things in this pre-ovulation, ovulation stage. Reducing your stress is so important. So using the cycle to help you do that, slowing down generally. Breath work is amazing. So finding those different breathing techniques. I love the 3-part breath, B breath, Ujjayi breath. These are all amazing to help calm the nervous system. And different yoga for different times within the cycle. I'm going to put some links in the description of things that you can do that will be quite supportive for you to help reduce the stress. This is really important to help get out of that hustle culture, and realize that we don't work to that circadian rhythm, that 24-hour clock. We work to the infradian one. And when you start to work more with that cycle, the monthly cycle, you'll start to see that you have more energy when you need it, when you're taking better care of yourself. And then you'll start to see more changes, health-wise, your period as well. So I'm keen to know if any of this resonates. Maybe drop some comments and let me know if this is of support for you.